Chair.
The Honourable A.B. Adams.
Mr Chairman, thank you. I want to take a call to talk to an SOP I've tabled this morning, picking up concerns and discussions that I've had with other parties over the course of the evening. I said last night in my contribution that I was happy to continue to talk to parties, and if we found areas of common ground, to support them where they made sense. And this morning I've spoken with the Green Party, the Māori Party, and the Labour Party. I'm sorry, Mr O'Rourke, I haven't had a chance to reach out to you around the length of the review clause, and there was some concern expressed to me that there was a preference of this House that the review clause period be shortened from 24 months or 2 years to 18 months, and the government will support that, and so I've tabled an SOP now that will be coming to members doing that. It also just picks up some advice I've had from the clerk, which I don't think will be of any great concern to the House, but just so that you're all aware, the bill as introduced talked about referral to the Justice and Electoral Committee, and just providing more flexibility so that the clerk can nominate the appropriate committee, because as we know, various parliaments constitute committees in various different ways. So because it's just been tabled, I'll read it to you. Replace clause 37 with review by select committee. A select committee to be determined by the clerk of the House of the Representatives must, 18 months after the commencement of this Act, review the operation of this Act and prepare a report on that review. So in other respects the same, with a shortened time period and just making sure that there is no issue around if the select committees of this House would at any point in time be reconstituted. The clerk would have the ability obviously to determine the appropriate one, which I don't imagine members will have any great concern with. I did just want to also come back to Mr Parker. We discussed last night that I would consider his SOP, around whether we needed to add the requirement, a legal compulsion on returning offenders to give us their criminal histories. My view at that time was that it was a circular argument and that we would need to have their criminal histories to know that they were returning offenders to then collect the information. But I undertook to confirm that. That's certainly the advice that I've had through from officials. Without their criminal history records, we can't classify them as returning offenders. The only way that we could make sure that was comprehensive would be potentially to require every returning New Zealander to disclose all criminal convictions, and that's not a step I'm prepared to take as an intrusion on New Zealanders returning to their home country. But what I've also checked, so firstly I'm convinced that to do it in the manner proposed, where it's only returning offenders, is circular because we already know their criminal histories at that point. But the other point I checked in discussion with Mr Parker was whether police were confident that they had the ability to get criminal history information from any jurisdiction, and they assured me that they are, and they don't see that as necessary. And so on that basis, we won't be supporting it. The other point I would make is that once the person is identified as a returning offender, we of course have the ability to take their biometrics, take their details, and then of course continue to follow up. So we'll have enough information to determine them as returning offenders, and then in the future, obviously with biometrics, we can continue to build on that. But police's advice to me is that it's unnecessary. Legal advice to me from my apartment is that it is circular, as I had first thought, and so on that basis we won't be supporting that SOP.
Chris Farfoy.
Mr Chair.